Jack Frost, the video store cult classic Christmas horror movie starring a killer snowman. If you grew up in the 90s like me, you probably grew up seeing this movie in a video store. I remember some video stores had the lenticular cover, so you would go from looking like a normal snowman to this horrifying snowman. And of course there was confusion because Michael Keaton was in a Jack Frost movie too. I wouldn't actually see this movie till much later in life, but I instantly fell in love with it. Welcome back to the Acto Violence channel. My name is Alec. Today we're talking Jack Frost, the horror film on VHS. This is definitely one of those low-budget, direct-to-video movies from the 90s. You know, as I mentioned before, I would see it in video stores and just be horrified, scared. My mind would be making up all the scenarios that I would imagine happened in this movie. So let's go ahead and pop it in. So you throw the tape in, you see an Apex Entertainment logo, then you see a coming attractions. And we get 3 trailers. The first is for Body Armor. Sort of an action movie. I was hoping for some horror trailers on this tape, but guess not. This is actually my first viewing of the tape. I've only had it for a few months. I also have the DVD, and that's usually what I watch. So then we get a trailer for Habitat, and this actually looks kind of interesting. Never seen it. Followed by Diary of a Serial Killer. Less my vibe, but I guess it's more towards the creepy realm. Following the FBI warning, there's another Apex Entertainment logo and the opening. And I gotta say, I love the credit sequence for this movie. It's brilliant. Ornaments with names written on and stuff, perfect. Now sure, the voices are a little goofy, and it just sounds like it reminds me of that Eazy-E Christmas song that has like a little girl talking to someone who's telling a Christmas story, you know? Like that's the vibe, but it sounds like it's an impression of a little girl. It doesn't sound like a little girl, so it's kind of weird, you know? And it's a little bit of Jack's backstory that's kind of, but it's really just a framing device. And I really want to make an ornament that has the logo like that on it. It's beautiful. So this is a movie that is very much a slasher movie, but it's also a horror comedy movie. And it does that so well. Like some of that stuff, if I had watched this as a kid, the comedy stuff would have gone over my head for sure. Stuff like the state executional vehicle. Like, what? And Jack is played by your discount store Jack Nicholson, but I gotta say, he does a decent enough job. It's creepy. Like, look at this guy. He's sniffing the cigarette smoke that this man is exhaling. And what do you know? It's a genetic research van. Genetic research van. That's what's written on the outside. Come on. And just the way this movie is cut is hilarious.
What the
because I can get the intention behind that scene, but it just doesn't come across well. And then his little...
Oh, yeah.
Before the car crash, essentially. And I gotta say, the lighting and stuff and the framing and everything is excellent for what I'm sure this movie's budget was. Like, it's definitely cheesy and everything, but it works for this movie. And right as he's about to be sprayed with these genetic chemicals or whatever, he goes...
This is gonna hurt.
His face melting and his reaction, and the guy's reaction to it. The guy seems very like, huh. Like, the expressions he's making do not signify to me that he's seeing a man melt in front of him. And I gotta say, the graphics for the DNA look like wrapping paper you would buy in the 90s. We get the little flashback scene to him being caught by the sheriff who we're introduced to. This kid is making some really nasty concoction for his dad. And come on. This kid's too old to be saying weird shit like, I made you special. What the fuck is that? They introduce the snowman contest. We see Shannon Elizabeth, who you'll recognize from stuff like American Pie, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, that 70s show. And dude is just triggered all the time. Like the sheriff is having flashbacks all the time to the messed up shit that Jack said to him.
Into a nightmare.
Sam, you okay?
Oh, yeah.
Again, that stuff's hilarious. I think the effects are pretty good. The old guy dead in the chair, for example. That's what we're coming up on. He looks fine. You know, low-budget horror stuff, you gotta just kind of take what you can get, so. The best scene, though, is the sled decapitation scene.
You're standing in the middle of a black guy's sled running snot for brains.
I don't know, that's gotta be in my top 10 slasher kills of all time, and I'm quite aware of how bad it looks, but it's hilarious, it's amazing. It's right up there with Jason punching the guy's head off in Part 8. Shannon Elizabeth is the older sister of this kid, and she's like, oh, he's dead, huh? Well, I better go get laid. Their dad is killed by an axe by the snowman, and then the snowman totally strangles the mother with Christmas lights, and like he's like smashing her face into the ornaments and stuff. It's awesome kill too. There's the whole classic thing between local police arguing with, in this movie, FBI. He's like, are you FBI? And he's like, sure. I gotta say too, that kitchen TV. Whew. Kitchen TVs, man. Kitchen TVs rule. So Shannon Elizabeth sneaks into the sheriff's house with her boyfriend to bang. There's a lot of goofy scenes here, them taking off their clothes in front of each other, him getting killed by Jack, and then she goes upstairs, blow dries her hair, and then decides to get in the bath. What? What's going on? And a low-budget horror, man, they like to do some weird rape scenes. Evil Dead tree scene comes to mind. And then he puts his nose back on afterwards, his carrot nose. Completely disturbing. And then he starts to have a bunch of one-liners.
Who's out there?
Well, it ain't fucking Frosty.
How are you?
World's most pissed off snow cone.
And I gotta say, the music is ridiculous throughout. I think it's sort of trying to lean into the comedy, but it doesn't really work. One scene in particular I'm thinking of is that scene where she gets into the bath and then you see the snow float up. And then the music kicks in, and I swear to God, it seems like we're watching Little Shop of Horrors. Like Rick Moranis is about to bust in and start singing on top of this song.
It's freezing!
They end up attacking him with hair dryers, forcing him into a furnace, trying out some one-liners of their own.
We iced him.
And then for some reason, he has that snack that his kid made from him still, and he like smacks the snowman with it on the face. And it starts like melting his face, and he's like, what'd you put in there? And he's like, I don't know, I didn't want you to get it cold, so I put antifreeze in there. You know, this kid's like fucking 9 years old. He tried to kill you. That kid wants you dead. One of the last best lines Jack has is, he gets like thrown up in the air, and he's like,
I can see your house from up here!
and then you hear the honk. The honk is the same honk from the Lost Boys. It's obviously the very iconic honking sound. But that's what I think of. I think of the Lost Boys, because then the car comes in, crashes through, and you know what I mean? Though I will say, as far as the music goes, I do like this version of Silent Night that's at the end. That's very disturbing. And as far as positives go for Jack Frost, I'm going to say the cast is good. The cast does a good job with the material that they're given. The comedy. Okay, so some of the comedy I feel like plays like it's too straight. Like you're going to watch it and think it's cheesy, not trying to be funny. But some of it is just brilliant, and I love it. The kills. So there's a few kills that are a little lackluster, but some of them are great. They're very entertaining. It's definitely not the goriest movie I've ever seen, but the effects. So we talked about how Jack looks a little bit, but let's talk about those snowman effects. They're awesome. Like, not the snow itself is just like cheap coconut, I'm sure, or whatever, but so when he's in his snowman form and he's like melting half of his head, it's like actually bloody and fleshy. That looks awesome. As far as negatives go, yeah, it's a little cheesy, and the comedy isn't always clear that it's supposed to be comedy. The acting is it's a little mid, but that's kind of what you get with these type of movies. The music, I kind of already talked about this before, but I definitely wasn't the big fan of most of the music in this. It just kind of undercut what was going on some of the times. And the effects, yeah, some of the snow effects were really trash. There were some effects here and there that are just like weird fading shots and like fading to another shot entirely. But overall, I really enjoyed it. And before I rate this movie, I do want to remind you that you can now join this channel as a member or head over to Patreon and join there, and you'll get access to an exclusive video every month and access to videos as they finish editing. And as far as rating goes, I am going to say Jack Frost, the horror film, for me is a 3.5 out of 5 hearts. I have a great time with this movie. It's right up there with like Rumpelstiltskin for me. And we'll be talking about that again very soon as well. And if you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.